Well, author and illustrator Jerry Craft has penned the sequel to his New York Times bestseller, New Kid. It's called School Trip. It takes on a few of the tough topics kids face in today's world with humor and positivity.
Hi, I'm Jordan Banks.
Your main character, middle schooler Jordan Banks, who's right behind you there, which is so cool, is on another adventure. Can you tell us about him?
So he started out in New Kid, where he was a 7th grader, and this is the first book. And he met a couple of his buddies, and now he and his buddies and the rest of his class are going on a school trip to Paris.
Because we're going on a school trip.
Bon voyage, baby!
To Paris. You know, the one in France.
Where they get to see places like the Louvre and the Picasso Museum and see the Mona Lisa and eat croissants and really see what it's like now that they're all new kids in another country.
I know that when I think back to when I was a middle schooler, there were so many times where I, kind of saw myself as different than the other kids. I was kind of an awkward kid as it was. So how do your books address that issue?
Oh, they hit that nail on the head. It is, like me, I was one of the smallest and the youngest kids in my class. So that is Jordan, and a lot of the characters are characters that don't necessarily fit in, but I give them such a compelling backstory that kids find that they're very empathetic and they really relate to these characters. So instead of seeing characters that that are traditionally bullied and picked on, they're characters that they look at and go, oh, wow, I really like this character. I'd like to see more. And then my hope is when they meet kids like this in real life, that empathy turns to an actual friendship, or at least the tolerance to be friends, the opportunity to be friends.
Are any of the characters based on people in your real life too? I know you just talked about Jordan, but anyone else kind of based on someone in your real life?
Right, so Jordan is loosely based on me and my 2 sons. I use a lot of names from kids I went to high school with and grew up with. Like Jordan's best friend around his block is named Kirk, and that was my first best friend around my block. So I use names, but I don't really use the characters because I don't want to get in trouble. But so this is me like saying thank you, but not going overboard with it. But the school is loosely based on Fieldston, where I went to, where I graduated from in Riverdale. So I did take that commute every day from Washington Heights in Manhattan to Riverdale. So it really was going from one planet to a completely different planet and back again every day, which for a 12-year-old was a little intense. It took a little bit of getting used to.
I can imagine. Do your friends that you just spoke about know that they're the characters in your book? How do they feel about that?
Oh yeah, I don't tell them ahead of time, but I get to see who actually read the book by if they call me up and go, hey, is that me? So there's still a few that are out there that I've never heard from, so that means that they may have bought it, but they didn't read it yet.
There you go. Jerry, you're also a syndicated cartoonist and a comic book writer, which is so incredible. Were you into comics as a kid too?
Oh yeah, that was all I read. I feel like I went from Dr. Seuss to Marvel Comics to nothing because my teachers didn't like us reading comics because they thought it wasn't real reading. So I became a very reluctant reader. So for that reluctant reader who was told that comics were silly to grow up and write the comic book that became the only graphic novel ever to win the coveted Newbery Medal is just something that I didn't even know I had permission to dream about, something that big. And that's one of the focuses of my book, is giving kids permission to dream.
Wow, that is so huge. Well, I want to talk about that too. You have been awarded many honors and you are an advocate for Black artists, which I think is so important and so incredible in today's world. What's your advice to those watching right now, whether it's, somebody who does aspire to be an author or even those kids at home who are seeing themselves reflected in you?
Well, one of the big things is, in my case, I felt compelled to tell my own story because most of the books that I read that featured kids who looked like me, kids of color, they always had the weight of the world on their shoulder. I didn't have the escapist entertainment of a Harry Potter or Percy Jackson or a Wimpy Kid where you could just relax and enjoy life. Everything to me was history or misery. So I always say that I make the books I wish that I had when I was a kid that would have made me a reader at an earlier age, because I did not find a mirror in a book until I had kids of my own and I started reading books. So that's the main thing that I wanted to do. And, you know, I hope I've achieved that.
Because when you're in a new country with new customs and new food, everyone's going to feel like the new kid.
Jerry Craft's newest graphic novel, School Trip, is available now wherever books are sold.